Hello everyone and welcome for some proper DMing tips. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about morality and sort of the alignment system that is usually being used in pen and papers like D&Ds, for example. Now I've been doing a bunch of different settings with very different people all over the years, and something that I've noticed is that morality is something that where usually one character says to themselves, okay, my character is either a good guy or he's a bad guy. You can compare it to the D&D alignment system. He's lawful good. He's gonna do this and this and this in that situation. Or he's chaotic evil. He can do anything because chaotic evil is basically just like, I get to do anything. Eh? And then you can just say like, wow, he's chaotic evil. That's just what he does. Anyway. Something that I've noticed is that it usually doesn't really have anything to do with the gameplay that much. Like I had a character at some point in my group, well I was pretty much DMing this entire time, so I had a player in my group who said, okay, my character, he's really crazy and he likes to kill people. So when he gets to new settlements or whatever, he asks, can I find a dark alleyway where I can just kill a guy and like loot the guy or whatever. He really was committed to playing basically a serial killer in my group, which was alright. I mean, outside from what I just told you, he didn't do that much crazy stuff, but every now and then he would let it show that he is indeed supposed to be like a sort of serial killer guy. And they also did that in a different setting that I had, like in a fantasy setting that I did. And he was like, okay, I killed a guy, I want to loot his bones or whatever. And he would do stuff. He would always get trophies or whatever he killed and like wear it around his neck or whatever. He would also do that kind of stuff, which is really weird. But the actual gameplay change, it didn't really have any impact. And on this big story, it also didn't really have any impact or what my characters really wanted to do at any given point. They would usually say, okay, my character wants to do this, so he just does it, and I don't really care about what it has to do with morality or alignment. Usually the only thing that really exists isn't morality or alignment, it's what the player wants to do. And what the player wants to do, he'll just do. Of course, contrary to that, you have the alignment system in D&D, for example, where you can say, no, your character does not do that because your character is lawful good. He will not kill the beggar, for example. But I really don't think that systems like that, I mean, they can be really nice, but for the most part, I don't really like systems like that because you're basically constraining people to what they can or cannot do, even if they want to do something else, all in the service of playing a fictional character. But the thing is, when you play a character, even though that's a character in a story, you're still playing that character. The character is not doing its own stuff and you get to watch your character. No, you get to tell your character what you want the character to do. Of course, the character might be a different person than who you are, but you're still sort of controlling him. You're still playing him. It's role-playing, not role-watching. So how do you introduce morality and alignment then into the game when really it doesn't really matter for the story and gameplay because characters will just do whatever they want anyway, and it doesn't really have any impact on anything. And I mean, sometimes it gets even worse when players let this here decide what their morality should be. Do I kill the guy now? Oh no, it's a 5. I'm thinking I'm gonna kill the guy now or whatever. I don't know. Stuff like that. I really don't like that. So what I had happen in my most recent setting, I pretty much only played custom settings so far. I don't actually like official rule sets that much because I like to have freedom. But in the setting that I had, it's some sort of fantasy setting with a bunch of different races. Humans have gone extinct, but there's a bunch of other races now, and there's like a lot of paradimensional ether that's floating everywhere, not really visible, but it's like permeating the entire world, and it bestows people with oddities, and oddities are like super amazing spells that can do stuff, and basically all magic is surrounded by these like oddities, and people want to get oddities. They want to have as many of them as possible because they make you really powerful. And they can do all sorts of stuff. There's like an oddity that creates an electrical charge, and then if someone else does the oddity with the opposite electrical charge, you can like shoot lightning between the two of you, stuff like that. Like really weird and crazy stuff. Nothing really straightforward, just like shooting a fireball. I don't even think I have a fireball spell in my entire arsenal, or I don't think I have any spell in my entire spell list that just does damage or does something simple. It's all really weird stuff. Anyway. So you can get oddities like that by either doing special stuff, like sometimes you'll get, like, the players will get pulled into a pocket dimension where they have to like solve a puzzle, and if they solve a puzzle, they gain an oddity, something like that. Or something, and this is where the morality comes into play, something that you can do is the oddities are all tied to the people's souls. So if you were to kill a guy and then absorb pieces of their soul, you would get some of their oddities. And suddenly, with that simple idea that I came up with at my second adventure, like I didn't even come up with this like right at the start, with this simple idea, suddenly everything has been blown completely open in terms of morality. Because now, if the player chooses to be a really bad guy and just kills a bunch of people for no reason, they can get a gameplay bonus by getting more new oddities that they can then use to do cool stuff with. Oh, that's interesting, huh? Now suddenly people really have to decide, do I want to kill a guy or not? Do I want to let a guy live? If they have someone who like betrayed them or whatever, or they have to fight a guy, afterwards they can decide, okay, do I let the guy live and then maybe he joins me? Or do I kill the guy and just get some of his oddities? That would be amazing. And this has actually made the entire adventure so much nicer, absolutely everything that happens, because now people are constantly trying to actually play the morality system that hasn't been like put into the game. It's like, this is the morality system, these are the alignments. No, the morality system that all exists in players' heads now actually has influence over the game. I mean, of course, they're still fictional characters, but now it has a huge impact on what they do and how they do stuff, if they decide to be a good guy or a bad guy. Because good guys, they're going to have more NPCs helping them out, but they're going to have less powerful spells themselves. Or if they kill everyone, they're going to have a lot more powerful spells themselves, so they can go one-man army on everyone. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. And of course, if you kill everyone and you don't have that many friends, there might be some situations where it might be really good to have some friends helping you out, helping the group out, some NPCs that know stuff. But if everyone's dead, the group doesn't really know what to do, and they have to figure out a lot of stuff on their own without being helped by anyone. And it becomes a lot harder to do puzzles, some puzzles, for example, when they have absolutely no hints from an NPC that was supposed to give them a hint, but they killed the NPC, so they can't get the hint, but they can still maybe figure out how to do the puzzle otherwise. Stuff like that. So I think that is one of the most important ways on how to actually introduce morality and alignment, is instead of just saying, this is the morality, this is the alignment, your character does this and that because of your character's alignment. Instead, make it have an impact on gameplay. Your character is supposed to understand that how he plays his character, how he plays his alignment, how morality fits into everything, that changes the way the story works. It changes the way the gameplay works. It changes the way that the adventure is being played, depending on what they decide to do, morality-wise. And this, of course, also means that you need to have a story and an NPC web that is very, very free. It has a lot of freedom in it, in that I usually don't actually think about the adventure after the next adventure. I only really plan to the next adventure, and even in that adventure, I usually just list, okay, there's these and these NPCs, there's this and that conflict going on, and the group starts here, and at some point, maybe at the end, they'll be here. And then absolutely everything else is getting improvised, and I just let everything play out and just make sure that very naturally the group sort of goes kind of to where I want them, but they can do whatever they want. It's an extremely free and open-ended adventure where I basically make everything up on the spot, which sounds like a terrible idea, but I've been doing that for like 30 sessions, I think. I've done like 30 sessions in total, maybe. And I've never actually been stumped once. I was always able to come up with completely new stuff where, like, people walk into town and they go, okay, what do I see? And I say, okay, so you have, like, for example, the orphanage, you have the inn to the Bleiernisserie, I don't know what that's in English, and then you have the what's the English name for that? I don't even know the German name. The botanist, for example, and they say, okay, I want to go to the botanist. I just rattle some stuff off that I came up off the top of my head, and they go to the botanist, and then I'm like, okay, botanist, what kind of botanist is this guy? And I just make a guy who's like very relaxed, and the group, I just made him relaxed, but then the group sort of read into that he was smoking weed or whatever. or some stuff, and I just rolled with that. But you know, stuff like that, just coming off the stuff off the top of your head. But if you do stuff like that, if you just roll everything from improvisation, which is not the best for everyone. I mean, most people will probably fare better if they have a plan. But if you can do the sort of, yeah, where you just come up with everything on the spot, if you can do that sort of play style, really try and introduce morality and alignment into the gameplay section of your role-playing game. Really make sure that your characters can, if they want to, either befriend almost any NPC or kill almost any NPC. For example, I usually write characters that way, that there doesn't necessarily have to be a boss for them to fight. There's just a conflict going on with people involved in that conflict, and maybe some people want to do some extreme things in order to end the conflict or to gain an advantage for their side, and then the group can always decide, okay, do we talk to that guy or do we have a boss fight? Usually they go for the boss fight, because I always have some really cool stuff up my sleeves for boss fight. I've had 3 boss fights so far. None of them were really straight up just boss fight. All of them had something extremely weird about them, like a boss that used the environment to attack. Like, I had a boss that didn't attack himself. He used only the environment to attack people, which also meant that people couldn't dodge attacks, because, for example, if I say the ground below you erupts and you shoot upwards, you can't really dodge that. I mean, maybe you can do a reaction, you can do some acrobatics, but it's not really an AC. You can't roll an AC against that. How would you do that? No, maybe it's acrobatics, but nothing really else you can do about that. And I have a bunch of stuff like that. So really crazy stuff going on. Anyway, when you have also characters that are morally gray, like actual morally gray, not as in like I'm gonna burn down this entire tree because I want to. If you have actually morally gray characters, or just characters who just happen to be on different sides of a conflict, you can also have that alignment and morality flow into the story as well, because now when the characters decide differently, or if they want to fight a guy or if they want to befriend a guy, now suddenly the entire story changes. Like in the very first adventure I had with my group, I have a guy who I say he could potentially be the big bad guy of the entire campaign, if it comes to it, because he's the most powerful character and everything. But at the start he was like, hey guys, hey adventurers, I like your style. I mean, I want to do this and this and that. You want to help me, join me and stuff like that. But the stuff he was proposing was actually very reasonable, and he is kind of a reasonable person. He is not a bad guy who just comes in, I'm going to kill you if you don't join me. But he's like, okay, I want to do this and this and that. If you want to help me out, sure, you can help me out if you want to. And 3 of the people actually wanted to do that. The 4th guy shot the guy, and then he ran away, which made the other 3 people very, very angry because they wanted to join the guy. Anyway, so that happens. But yeah, this was just a situation where how the players want to choose their alignment or play their alignment in the moment had a really big impact on the story, because the entire story could have completely changed at that point, and because I'd only plan out the very next adventure, none of my plans would have been thwarted at that point. I could have just, this is the only plan for the next adventure. I don't need to adhere to some master plan throughout the entire thing. And I even had something like that happen in a different setting, where there was a guy who wanted, it was basically like a post-apocalyptic setting like Fallout, and basically there were some cities around the area that were sort of becoming governed again, civilization was starting to recover, it was starting to getting built up, but the group has found a lot of fun in just running around and doing stuff like robbing people or being evil, killing people, looting stuff, just going on grand adventures. And there was a guy who basically was like, okay, I want to destroy the government again, because I like the way I like the freedom that we have right now. This freedom is something that we've never had before. And that goes to the group and he's like, don't you also like looting and going around and having great adventures and living life your way? And the group, and a lot of people in the group were actually kind of really like that way. And if all of that were to go away, because for example the police would come back or whatever, then there would just be normalcy would come back, and we couldn't go on adventures anymore. All the cool adventures that we have if you have like a Fallout kind of setting, all that would go away. So they would be like, maybe we don't actually want to make sure that everything stays the way it is. And then a bunch of other people in the group also were like, no, I don't think we can do that, because the people there, they haven't really done anything bad. We would have to like kill a bunch of people in order to do that, and I don't want to do that. And they had a really long back and forth about that. And this is also something, once again, because everything is so freeform, because no one is really constrained by alignment, because let's be honest, alignment isn't realistic. Alignment is a fictional system for describing a fictional character, because real characters don't adhere to alignment. You cannot categorize humans. Even, I'm not going to go there, but even when you look at people who you think are really good people, like for example Mother Teresa or Gandhi or whatever, and you read into their history, into their background, you'll see that they don't have a completely white vest. They haven't been the lawful good pillars of justice throughout their entire life. People do different kinds of things throughout their life. Bob Ross used to be in the army. He used to be a drill sergeant. And if you look at Bob Ross now, well, in his latest memories at least, when he was painting, he's like the most lawful good guy you can ever imagine. But he used to be a drill sergeant in the army, and he said he didn't like that stuff. So people don't adhere to alignment. People change, people do different things. Alignment does not work that way. So it's a fictional system for fictional characters. So I'd rather have it a bit more realistic and just say, you play the character how you want to play it, because you're a real human being, and if a real human being plays a character, they're probably going to play it more realistically than if they try and squash it into some fictional alignment system that is only really good for describing fictional characters. Anyway, that was pretty much all I wanted to go on. I've gone on way too many tangents than I wanted to, but to bring it all to a point, I don't really think that rigid alignment systems are the way to go, because for one, they're not realistic, and two, it forces players to play how a system describes they should play and now not how they want to play, which goes against the whole playing aspect of role playing and becomes role watching instead, or role observing. I don't like that. And secondly, morality and alignment becomes a lot more, when you have that freeform sort of systems, you can then introduce gameplay aspects for your alignment and make characters in the story morally grey, and always give the option if your characters or if your players should try and befriend an NPC, if they should try to reason, or if they should go and attack an NPC, or if they want to do anything else. I mean, one of the guys that I had in my story was trying to bribe the group, and it almost worked. And I mean, there wasn't anything bad about that. If they just took the bribe and moved on, that would have been the end of that story, and it would have been totally fine. It would have been totally fine. Anyway, that's at that point, just use the freedom of your morality and alignment that happens in players' heads and not on a sheet of paper, and then use that morality that happens in players' heads to have impact on story with freeform NPCs and decisions, and in the gameplay, maybe with what I did earlier, what I talked about with the oddities, where people can gain oddities for killing, but they could also just befriend the stuff and then have more people helping them, stuff like that. Make it impact the gameplay. So yeah, that's about that. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.